Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a horror drama from 2017 titled Gerald's Game. The film opens with a husband named Gerald packing cuffs in his luggage for a trip with his wife to restore their lost element of love in their marriage. During their road trip, the wife, Jessie, becomes uncomfortable hearing a song Gerald's playing, so she politely asks him to turn it off and lies about wanting to observe nature in silence. As they reach closer to their vacation house, they are stopped by a dog eating a roadkill. By its looks, Jessie assumes it's someone's pet and not a stray. Anyway, the couple ignores the dog and head to their home, where Gerald shares with Jessie that he's packed the house with a week worth of groceries. So Jessie decides to take out some slabs of steak and wait outside in hopes that the dog she saw earlier would come. Soon, the dog comes smelling the steak and starts devouring it, but Gerald scares him away, who now complains about how Jessie wasted an expensive steak he bought for themselves.
It's actually from Kobe. It's $200 a portion.
After this awkward conversation, the couple heads straight to the bedroom to rejuvenate their love story. Gerald takes a performance-boosting pill in the bathroom, while Jessie puts on a newly bought and revealing maxi to appear attractive. As expected, Gerald cuffs her during their lovemaking and tries to force himself onto her in a perverted manner, which freaks out Jessie, and she yells at him to cut the act and uncuff her.
Help! Somebody help! I don't like this. I'm serious. Stop.
I like that. Make it feel real.
Stop it. Fucking stop it!
During their argument, Gerald is struck with a heart attack and dies on top of Jessie, who is still cuffed to the bedposts.
What's happening?
Unbeknownst to what's coming ahead, Jessie falls into a very traumatizing event of her life, which outweighs the rest of her soon-to-be revealed traumas. As her first instinct, she kicks her husband off, who falls to the ground and hits his head. She struggles to break free from the cuffs, but it doesn't work since the cuffs are legit. Now, tied up to a bed with no help, Jessie slowly slips out of her mind and starts hallucinating. But first, the dog she recently fed shows up and takes out a chunk of her husband's meat from his arm and starts chewing on it, which disgusts Jessie and makes her yell for help, only there's no help coming anytime soon. As the sun starts to fall, Jessie hallucinates her husband waking up and making her realize how there's not going to be any help for days since they gave their housekeepers and gardeners the week off. He then starts pushing her to reflect on their relationship and point out what killed their spark, ultimately blaming her.
You never told me you heard it. You never raised an objection. You smiled through the night, hated me a little bit, but never once brought it up.
But she hardcore denies it and tries to process what is happening to her. After a long conversation about Jessie always being the victim, Jessie bruises and breaks her hand out of the cuff and breaks the other post to free the other one. Taunting her husband how easy it was to free herself, she walks towards the door, only to look back and find out she's still cuffed to the bed, and the one walking around the room is the visual representation of her subconsciousness, which has come out to defend herself from her dead husband's claim, who is just a visual representation of her guilty conscience trying to project and escalate her fears. Her subconscious insults Gerald's manhood and positively reinvigorates Jessie to snap out of her misery and free herself before she dies.
If you don't wake up, you're gonna die in those handcuffs.
But Jessie has strictly given up on life already. Here, her subconscious reminds her that someone else put her in cuffs long before Gerald did, so she must not give up and fight since she's done it before. Her guilty consciousness, Gerald, gets startled and starts asking about the mystery man. But Jessie chooses not to speak on it and buries her traumas deep within her. Jessie closes her eyes to stop hallucinating, which works for a while. But by the nighttime, when she struggles to reach her phone on top of a drawer using her legs, both of her consciousnesses reappear. While Gerald discourages her, laying out the cons, Jessie encourages her to grab the phone using some other method. Currently failing to reach her phone, she looks at the dog, who's still chewing on her husband's flesh by the door side. As her head hurts due to dehydration, Gerald continues to scare her by reminding her she's on the clock since humans can only survive 3 days without water. Luckily, the subconscious Jessie shows up to rescue. In order to jog Jesse's memory, she makes Gerald reenact the moment he swallowed the pill with water and placed the rest on a rack above the bed. When she reaches her hand there, the glass is actually there, so she lifts up the rack from one end in order for the glass to slide down to the other end, from where she grabs it and brings it down to drink. Sadly, due to her cuffed hands, she's unable to bring the glass closer to her mouth, so Gerald and the subconscious Jesse remind her together that she tore the price tag slip from her maxi and placed it on the rack. She instantly picks it up and makes a straw out of it, which helps her take a sip and save the rest for later. That night, when she tries falling asleep, a mysterious entity breaks into the house, which drives the dog away and stands in the dark corner. When it starts coming near Jessie, she becomes horrified by the looks and closes her eyes, while simultaneously repeating she's hallucinating. The sick Gerald spawns once again to escalate her fear and ends up calling her Mouse, hearing which Jessie reflects on a traumatizing event of her life from back when she was on the verge of becoming a teenager. Still a little girl going through unacknowledged emotions, little Jessie is always hated by her mother for spoiling their plans. One time, they reside in a lake house on their vacation, where Jessie refuses to go on a boat trip with the family. Her father argues with her mother in order to defend little Jessie and stays behind with her.
And we didn't force you out onto the mountain, did we? No, we left you at the lodge and we let you relax.
You want to stay with her? Stay with her.
He takes her outside to witness the eclipse, but ends up getting attracted to his own daughter, to a certain point where he makes her sit on her lap and touch his manhood, which little Jessie doesn't understand, but senses that it's not normal. That's when the song plays that Gerald accidentally played in his car in the film's beginning, which triggered her trauma, but she acted cool and had the song turned off. Now, Jessie snaps out of the flashback, screaming and realizing she's been rotting on the same spot the entire time. Now, her two consciousnesses reappear, both playing their part to help Jessie get out of there. While Gerald capitalizes on her fears and her being the problematic partner, the subconscious Jessie makes Jessie realize how she never broke out of her father's dynamic by marrying an old misogynist and objectifying pervert like her father. Hearing the bitter truth, Jessie swears that her father did nothing wrong besides touching himself, and starts to blame her short dress for provoking her father. As she's convinced herself her father didn't do anything wrong, the subconscious Jessie reminds what he did afterwards was way worse than the lap incident. Gerald tries to ask her more about that, but she switches the subject to her recurring nightmare growing up, which she now understands was seeing her older version dying of secrets. When death is mentioned, Gerald makes her look at the footprints near his smeared blood and confirms that the shadowy figure she saw last night was real and refers to it as Death, which came to collect her soul. He further predicts that it's going to appear again at night. Once Jessie gets rid of the hallucinations, she reflects on her encounter with her father after their lap incident from a new perspective as an adult, and realizes how he manipulated her into staying silent by deciding to tell everyone what happened and be punished by his wife, so that little Jessie would get scared and stay silent, which actually worked out great.
I mean, if it's ever going to come out, then it's better for both of us that it happened now. Not in a week or a year or even 10 years from now.
Please. I won't tell.
When she wakes up from the vision, she finds the dog trying to bite her leg, so she immediately kicks him away. The dog continues to eat the dead Gerald instead. Gerald spawns in her bed again, reminding her how none of her friends will miss her enough to come look for her since she never opened up to them. And contrary to that, Gerald's work people will take a much quicker notice and start looking for him. But by the time they'll show up at the house, they're going to find both of them dead. Once she's had enough of her fears, she dreams about returning to the day of the eclipse to apologize to her younger self and open up about how she never felt a part of the family after the event, and feared that her baby sister someday will have to go through the same thing once she grows up. Her younger self stops her and asks her to remind her of what happened afterwards. That's when she remembers that seeing her father act normal around her mother, she broke the glass in her hand and cut open her palm, which her father immediately bandaged in the bathroom and told her never to do such a thing because she could have missed and cut open her wrists, which would draw all the blood out of her in an instant. She gets back to reality and decides to cut her wrist to drain the blood so she can quickly break out of the cuffs. Both of her consciousnesses try to talk her out of it, but she doesn't listen and breaks the glass of water against the rack, during which her hands get injured. She then sticks a shard of glass in the creak of the rack. She holds her wrists against the shard and slits her wrist, due to which she's able to free herself from the cuff, but her skin rips from her wrist all the way to her palm. Since her other hand is still cuffed, she drags the entire bed and reaches the bathroom sink, from where she drinks water and uses a sanitary pad to stop her blood. She finds the key to uncuff the other hand, but faints immediately. She wakes up at night and finds the car keys to get going, but she's stopped by the entity, who's appeared once again with his box of bones and accessories. Jessie drops her ring in the box and runs away. Sadly, she loses way too much blood and sees the shadowy figure sitting in the backseat of her car, which prompts her to hit the car against a tree and black out. Luckily, the cops are nearby, who rescue her and bring her to the hospital. Months later, we see the recovered Jessie writing a letter with her injured hand that still hurts after 3 surgeries and a special kind of glove. In the letter, she opens up about mental health and how the police and doctors familiarized her with the psychological impact that trauma has.
This letter should hurt to write. The doctors, the cops, and even the reporters accepted my amnesia at face value. And why not? People who undergo serious trauma often block out memories. The cops knew that even better than the lawyers. And I knew it better than any of them.
She becomes a therapist who specializes in treating and healing traumas in kids by using her story as an inspiration. She finds through the news that the shadowy figure that she kept seeing and wondering about appearing in the dark corners because of moonlight now turns out to be real and caught by the police. It's revealed that due to a rare bone disorder, his body had changed shape and made him look like a monster. He was involved with the killing of his family and spreading fear around in his neighborhood while simultaneously stealing objects. Jessie decides to visit him in his court trial, where the man recognizes her and finally breaks his cuffs, as well as his silence to repeat her line. "You're not real. You're made of moonlight."
You're not real.
Officer!
You're only made of moonlight.
The film ends with the cops tackling him and Jessie walking out into a world of opportunities with her revamped and confident self. I hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.